Sandy and Nora's podcast.
Hey, Nora.
Hey, Sandy.
How are you doing? I hear there's like a heat wave over where you are at, and that probably sucks. How are you handling that? How's it going?
Heat waves suck so much. And I was in Toronto or in Southern Ontario for the heat wave that we had in the last week around Canada Day. We probably talked at that point, and I was probably losing my mind over how hot it was. Now I'm in a place that's not supposed to be hot at all, and it is hot. It's like 30 degrees, and I am in the wilds of northern Ontario, northeastern Ontario. And it's like, I'm beside a lake, so I can't completely complain, but it definitely doesn't feel like it's supposed to feel. It feels pretty weird.
Dang, I hate that for you and the entire world. That really feels like very oppressive. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? It's summer. I am at a cottage, so I'm not complaining at all. This is my vacation, so I'm coming to you live on vacation. And do you know, Sandy, what I did last night for the first time in my life?
Oh, no. What did you do for the first time in your life?
I went golfing.
Oh, I have not done that yet. It's like there's so many experiences in the world that I like really want to experience, and golfing just has never crossed my list. Is it?
No.
As boring as it seems to me. Sorry for all the golfers out there.
Okay, well, keep in mind that I play soccer, which is like a high intensity sport. It is definitely not that. There is certainly satisfaction when you connect with the ball, and you don't always necessarily connect well with the ball, and it just kind of goes flying. But definitely, it's not my thing. I got to go out because cousins of mine were doing ladies' night at the golf course, and so they needed an eighth, and so that was really fun to see family. It's certainly. You can see how business deals are done on the golf course because there's a lot of time that you're hanging out and you're talking. And I can only imagine, like, if you're trying to impress your boss, there's got to be a lot of bosses hanging over their inferiors and saying, straighten your arms, turn your head. Oh, you missed that one. But yeah, and you know what? I was in a golf cart, and the golf cart had a name of one of the companies that is on this list that I just did. This list of companies in Canada that are complicit in supporting Israel and by extension Israel's war crimes. And so I was just like, oh yeah, this is the moneyed class, I guess.
Wow. Inescapable, it sounds like. Well, I've got to say, you did not sell golfing to me, so it remains not on my list of things to experience. But things that I do love is, spending time with people and friends. And that's great. In-person time is great. And the in-person time that I spent a lot of time doing this week is, I think I've said this before, all the Capoeiristas are like really, really intense on soccer. And so, in addition to like bringing televisions into the space where we train, which is so funny to me. We went to a Brazilian bar this week to watch, the Brazilian team lose. Lose their final game. And I gotta say, it was fun. I mean, I thought the game was kind of boring, but it was fun to be in that bar where like literally anything that happened, any new possession, people were like, it was just really, really, really fun. So, there are good things happening this summer, and I love that.
Yeah. Well, other than, I guess, Brazil losing for them. Yeah, the World Cup has been wonderful. And, of course, in the last week, Canada was knocked out Pretty sad game. Morocco, I mean, better team, no question about that. Canada doesn't have a striker, really, that could put the ball in the net, and so that's going to impact your game in a pretty major way. But it was wonderful to watch the Canadian team do as well as they did. The Canadian women have a World Cup, I believe, in 2027, so people should be watching for that. But yeah, it's been fun. But enough about what's fun. Let's talk about what's wrong with the world. No, let's do something before that.
Yeah, let's do something before that. And like also, yeah, the Canada's out, the US is out, Mexico's out. The host cities are out.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well.
But you know what?
But they made it to the round of 16, which is really great.
Which is great. And the canceled red card had no effect on the US's ability
Even better
to win. Okay, anyway, let's show some gratitude. Additional gratitude for the summer. We've got some people to thank for helping us make this podcast.
Yes, thank you so much to Neil and Eliza for Eliza? I should say Eliza probably, for your support. We couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without everybody that gives us money, doesn't give us money, but shares the podcast, passes a really kind word to us. We appreciate it. And of course, you can always support Sandy and Nora by sharing this episode and giving to friends that you think need to hear it. I know you experience this too, Sandy, but whenever I'm on the road and I meet someone who says that their friend or their sister or their dad or their daughter got them into Sandy and Nora, I'm like, yes.
Yes. So into that, and we love that. So yeah, share the podcast with the people that you know, with the people that you love, and we love having new listeners, and hopefully we get to meet some of you soon. Maybe some plans for the latter half of the year. Who knows? We'll let you know.
Yeah, we will let you know. Okay, so big news out of Ottawa today. Let's start with this because I think it is just it's so indicative of how the Liberals run stuff. So the Liberals have made some Senate appointments. Senate. Let's start off, Sandy. What do you think about the Senate?
Why do we have a Senate? I don't know. It's a very confusing thing to me. Nora and I believe we've told this story on the podcast before. So if you're a longtime listener, you've probably heard it. When we used to work in the student movement and we would do lobby days, or we would go and talk to folks up on the Hill about post-secondary education and so on, we would obviously prioritize meeting with MPs and sometimes bureaucrats. But every once in a while, we would throw in some senators. And, it was really eye-opening as to how hardworking our senators are at making the country run, the politics of the country. It was super eye-opening. In that our senators, those appointments are. They are, congratulatory appointments, I suppose, or just getting people a very, very cushionly paying role with a nice office where they don't do anything that has to do with policymaking. They're a rubber stamp body, and they get to indulge in their hobbies. And so it was like pretty hilarious to walk into one senator's very large and amazing office that was full of beautiful fashion pieces and photos of her from over the years. And to be taken
I know who that is.
And to be taken through a bit of a tour of a history of fashion and her specific interest in fashion while we were there to talk about reducing and eliminating tuition fees. It was truly something. It was like, what is happening? And it doesn't really get much better than that, folks.
No, it doesn't get much better than that. Well, actually, I don't know. I remember having a conversation with someone, with Frank Mahovlich. And it was clear he had no interest and wasn't listening to us. And he just says to us, so what version of me do you want me to sign? And he had his former hockey teams, and we could get a signed picture of Frank Mahovlich after our meeting with him. It was like, okay. Or one senator who, to get into his office, he had to push the Jolly Jumper kid out of the way because it was also apparently a daycare. It was just like, I don't know. Grandpa's taking care of the grandkids today. It's really nice. It's really nice. I think the Senate sucks like crazy, and I think it's one of the things that makes Canada deeply undemocratic. In 1933, the Regina Manifesto, which was written by the founders of the was written by the founders of the CCF, the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, and they called for the abolition of the Senate back then, because it is a body that really is one of the pieces that connects us the strongest to like our colonial days, where you have to be a land-owning Canadian of 35 years of age or older to have this appointment for life. And there's never been Senate reform. There never will be Senate reform. It is always filling the seats within that chamber with people that the Prime Minister wants to put in there. And this week, we found out same thing from Mark Carney. Carney's doing the same thing. So he appointed 2 people. Who do you want to hear more about? The political maneuver position or the patronage position?
Let's start with the patronage position.
Very, very good choice. So Mark Carney.
Thank you.
He's appointed Tom Pitfield to the Senate. Pitfield was Carney's principal secretary in the last year. CBC's reporting that he served on Carney's campaign team and then became a principal secretary in the Prime Minister's office. It's actually kind of weird how John Paul Tasker writes it, because it makes it sound as if like he just became the secretary, as if like Carney didn't put him into that position. And it also makes it sound like 2025 was like 2 decades ago somehow. It's just like, this guy got Mark Carney elected a year ago, served in his most important staff position in the past year, and is now sitting in the Senate, where he will be paid for life by us to do not a whole lot except for reward liberals and attend events and have money to throw around for liberal causes.
And that's great. And now he can be rewarded for that work by sitting in the Senate for the rest of his life, getting paid handsomely by Canadian taxpayers. That's great.
Yeah, and actually, it's not even just him. His wife is Anna Gainey, who people will know as a Liberal MP in Quebec. So, wow, power couple. These guys must be so wicked to be so powerfully strong in politics. Oh my God. And again, this article's not very well written.
Okay, but wait, isn't the Senate supposed to be a check and balance, quote unquote, on Parliament? Like, isn't that what it's for? Isn't that a conflict, Nora?
Sandy, you must be thinking of how we're told it works. But no, the way it actually works is that the smallest group of people imaginable, who are all apparently married or sleeping together, or both, or whatever, they're going to check and balance each other. They're going to check and balance each other. And Tasker even has this line. I'm going to read it because it's not very clear who he's talking about here, but he says, Pitfield, a childhood friend and longtime digital campaign strategist for Trudeau, is a major figure in the modern Liberal movement. I think that means that Pitfield is the childhood friend of Trudeau and not Mark Carney. And judging by how old these folks look, that I think maybe checks out. And, he comes from political royalty. His father, Michael Pitfield, was the chief clerk of the Privy Council, Privy Office, for almost 30 years. And he was also a senator. We're just doing real patronage now. Oh my God, that's so great.
Canada seems like a real country. That is wonderful. Okay, tell me about the political one.
Well, actually, before I get to the political one, there's also 2 other appointments that I'll mention. One for New Brunswick is Dr. Rodney Willett, whom they mention is a friend of Dominic LeBlanc, who's also a Liberal, major Liberal, has been Minister of Finance. And then they've also appointed Manitoba Chartered Professional Accountant, Geeta Tucker. So then it's just like, and then here's a random accountant being appointed for Manitoba.
What?
Geeta Tucker.
I mean, I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, I do too. I guess maybe the Googles weren't that obvious on that one as they were putting this together. So those are the appointments.
Oh, if anybody has any info on that one, let us know.
Yeah, well, I'll take like 5 minutes and find something, but I'm just seeing this now. The political appointment, this is very, very smart politics. The Liberals have taken down their 5th Conservative MP, and they've taken him down by handing him a seat in the Senate. So sitting Conservative MP, sitting actual elected, dude is elected right now. Richard Martel, he represents Chicoutimi-le-Fjord, my favorite line there, Chicoutimi-le-Fjord, as and is then there as a Conservative. He also won the last general election as with the Bloc and the Liberals coming in a close second and third. So this is a riding that, of course, is very much up in the air. Poilievre's brand of conservatism has not clicked in Quebec in the way that I think that the party wanted it to, certainly the way the party needs it to. And Carney has just gotten rid of a 5th opposition person by putting him right into the Senate.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Mark Carney building from a pretty strong minority to a majority through politicking, and now strengthening that majority by giving a position to a sitting MP on the Senate to make sure that there will have to be a by-election where my understanding is they have a strong chance of winning. The Liberals do. Is that right?
Oh, well, I mean, the Liberals, if they don't win it, it will likely go to the Bloc. And as much as the Liberals, don't necessarily want any opposition at all. Even a Bloc MP would be a gain just to chip at the Conservatives' strength, certainly at their strength in Quebec especially. So this is very high politics from Carney. We should expect nothing less of him. He knows exactly what he's doing. And as you say, like, the Senate is supposed to be a check on the Parliament in a way. It's the chamber of sober second thought, right? This is a place where we're supposed to have legislation really carefully studied, but it's always been a clearinghouse of patronage. And having just finished this draft of my next book on democracy, patronage is really the bedrock of Canada's government. And somehow Canadians have just always come to expect it as being normal, even though, like, if you look at how democratic this system is, especially compared to the United States, it's really undemocratic because you have the executive, which is the Prime Minister's office and the Privy Council office, and the Prime Minister appoints his cabinet to form the executive. So they're all serving at his pleasure, and they can't screw up or else he will get rid of them. And so they are all extensions of the Prime Minister's office. Then you have the legislature, which is Parliament, which also is run basically by the Prime Minister, because Liberal MPs will act in ways to try and get themselves cabinet positions. They will not challenge the Liberal leader or the government leader or whatever for fear of being kicked out of the caucus. Right? Anybody who's marginal can be easily marginalized, and the opposition parties have virtually no power because even with a quarter of Canadians having voted for them, they can serve as if they've got 100% consensus behind them. And then then you have the Senate, which is just this body that is not going to do what it needs to do when the people that are being stacked in it are literally married to sitting Liberal MPs. Corruption, but it's to the core of who we are of Canada. And that is why when you're like, oh my God, I can't believe nothing works in this country. That's why it doesn't work, because it doesn't work for us. It works for the elites.
I was just about to say, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that it wasn't meant to work for us. So Canada's doing what Canada does best. What ridiculous state of affairs. And I mean, we're not going to talk about this, but like Carney is just showing exactly who he is all over the place this week. Folks will have seen the news about the pipeline. And so, I mean, for anybody who thought that Carney at the head of the Liberals was going to be a different kind of liberal, here we are. With the weird video that he put out being like, hey, man, I told you when we were going to have hard conversations. And I don't know, that just feels like super, super liberal, doing the opposite of what they say they're going to do because there are no principles. It's all about power. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and I just want to also put a finer note on it in case it kind of went under people's radar. This pipeline announcement was timed to be made with Canada Day, right? This is supposed to be the announcement of our new economic prowess as a pipeline country, as if that's anything new, or economically prowessy. But did you see, Sandy, that Carney tried to get out to Calgary to end Canada Day out there, and his plane couldn't take off from Ottawa because they had really extreme weather that day.
Oh. It kind of sounds like a less dramatic way that Trump had to spend July 4th, like demanding that he's able to give this speech and under the threat of like this intense lightning storm. It's just like, I don't know. It's like the universe does not want the Western leaders to continue to be the terrible people that they are to all of us, which is like, okay, great. I like that the universe is on our side. Power to the universe.
I guess, yeah. We just have to figure out how to tap into it.
Yeah. Okay. But can I tell you about our main story for today? It's just this thing that I came across this week that's been annoying me.
Yes. Though I think it's more important than just annoying you. I think that this is something that has other political implications that we need to talk about. So we're going to do that.
Yes, 100%. And so, I am scrolling across the social medias and not engaging really as I do, just looking at what people are talking about. And I come across a post from Progress Toronto. Progress Toronto is a progressive group of folks who are trying to, who have been successfully and continue to try to have a progressive effect on the voters of the city of Toronto to affect the elections when they happen and to also affect policymaking. This is an election year in Ontario municipalities. They all have elections on the same day in October. And so folks are starting to campaign for elections coming up in October. And Progress Toronto makes this post on Instagram that I kind of found a bit shocking, just from my position for like all the work that I've done researching policing and so on. But then when I thought about it, I was like, okay, maybe this is not obvious to people. So I think this is important to talk about. So in the province of Ontario, Doug Ford, the Ford government, has, as part of their campaign to stop the war on the car, outrageous, has started to take down speed cameras. So those automatic cameras that catch drivers speeding across intersections. Okay. And so he's taken that stuff down, and Progress Toronto puts up a post that it has some data in it that some people are saying it was reported incorrectly or whatever about the amount of speeding increasing since the cameras were taken down. And it seems like there's some dispute as to whether that data is correct or not. But either way, the implication of the post and the argument in the post is that these speed cameras need to go back up. And part of the argument that they're making is that this is a non-policing way to make sure that our streets are safer from the dangers of traffic. And Nora, I mean, what do you think about that when you first hear that? Like, does that sound like, how does that sound to you? Speed cameras.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they do slow people down. Like, there is pretty good data on that. I also know, and people that haven't been necessarily paying attention to this issue in Toronto won't know this, but the speed cameras in particular in this one place near High Park in downtown Toronto, downtown west end of Toronto, they kept on getting smashed. So they're hot button issues because every time a new speed camera came up, someone took a baseball bat to them and would smash them down. But I do think, yeah, I guess a camera would be a way to reduce policing and is an automatic way to scare people into slowing down. That makes sense.
Yeah, except not really. Right? Not really at all. Like there's a whole bunch of things that are wrong with this, and we can take a zoomed out view or a zoomed in view. Which would you like to hear first?
I'm a funnel person. Let's go big then small.
Okay, big. One of the things that folks have to understand is what they are supporting when they're supporting surveillance infrastructure. Like the idea that this is a non-policing way to ensure that people are safer is, I just want to disabuse people of that right away. That is kind of outrageous, because who makes surveillance infrastructure? It's the policing apparatus. The policing apparatus makes policing and surveillance infrastructure. You're not going to be able to find like a camera company that is like, hey, we're the anti-policing camera company that provides surveillance tools. No, you're supporting a part of the entire the policing infrastructure, the carceral infrastructure, the whole penal system, right? And so zoomed out, by making this argument and trying to pretend that it's like not, and I use the word pretend, not saying that the people who are advocating for this are being disingenuous, but the people who try to sell it this way from the corporate standpoint of saying like, oh, you'll need less police because this is just a technological way to take care of what's going on in your city. That is disingenuous, because it is about policing infrastructure and it is about supporting policing more broadly.
Okay, that makes sense. And I don't know enough about these cameras to know, like, is it police or is there some sort of municipal division that's actually looking at the data from them? Like, do you know the mechanism of all that, or is this more of a broader cameras on the streets and CCTV is increasing surveillance culture within our society?
Now, I don't know the answer to that. I will say that Progress Toronto, there was some argument in the post that they made. Progress Toronto has said that there is a non-policing unit at the City of Toronto that takes a look at these cameras. But I also just want to caution that there's, again, with the surveillance infrastructure that has kind of permeated our entire world, those were run by tech companies, right? Like that is data that goes to tech companies. That's information that goes to tech companies. And like what is happening in the United States around these types of cameras is like incredibly stupid, because what is the next step in all tech infrastructure is passing it off to AI, right? And so what are we seeing from these types of cameras in the United States? Like massive mistakes from these speed cameras that are sending tickets to people who aren't even in the cities in which the cameras are located.
Right. Okay, so zoom us in then. What's the problem when you look at it at the micro level?
Yeah, and just to like put a finer point on that tickets going to people who are not even in the city that the cameras are in. It's up to the person who got the ticket to prove that they weren't there. So now all of a sudden they have to get roped up into like a court system to try to figure out how to get rid of a ticket that they've been given because we've passed off policing infrastructure to a tech company that is still doing policing because they're a part of the policing apparatus, right? So just wanted to make sure that people are thinking about that. Okay, so smaller. Nora, like on a local level, this, right? Like there are so many ways to deal with the traffic issue and traffic safety issue. One of the least effective is punishment, right? Because what does a speed camera assume? A speed camera assumes that they're like to focus on speed cameras assumes that one, there are always going to be speeders, right? Like, so you've conceded defeat, number one. Like, you haven't stopped the people from speeding. Like, again, you've mentioned, and some folks have pointed to, there is a bit of a deterrence effect, but broadly, deterrence doesn't work as a way to stop people from doing something like speeding. And there's lots of research to show that like this doesn't really work. And I mean, we know this because of how much speeding continues to be a problem in cities, and how much traffic accidents continue to be a massive issue, right? So issue number one is that speeding cameras assumes that you concede defeat, and you are now trying to catch people who are speeding, but they're still speeding, right? Number two is you give up on all of the there's so many more results, strategies that have results behind them that can help people to stop speeding and can provide safer streets. Whether we're talking about a more public transit infrastructure or just changing the way that we have designed our cities to encourage speeding. And so I'm talking about, instead of straight streets, having straight streets that are designed so that people have to weave a little bit in the traffic, which slows them down. Instead of having streets that are primarily for cars, having streets that have infrastructure in the streets, like pedestrian tables that rise a little bit, like chicanes that force cars to be careful when they're driving, like obstacles for cars that make it impossible to just speed straight through. We know that those options that are available to us that are harder, that take a little bit more time. And when I say harder, I mean harder on policymakers, because it takes a little bit more time to put some funding, the initial capital funding behind that, to change the way our cities look and operate. That stuff is far more useful and actually prevents speeding rather than punishing people who already make the streets unsafe or harm people.
Yeah, and I think that this is the most important piece for this issue to mention, especially this whole the street design. So the road that people have zeroed in on as being the problem is Parkside Drive. And, the word drive suggests that it is a passing through street that is, supposed to be an efficient way to bypass perhaps residential streets, right? On one side is a park, on the other side are houses. And it is a straight line. Like, if you Google Parkside Drive, it is a straight line from north to south or south to north. And every time I've seen people, especially left-wing people who have been involved in municipal politics in Toronto, decrying the fact that Doug Ford removed these speed cameras, making them into an object of cultural wars rather than actually talking about anything related to, road safety. I've been so frustrated to see people play the exact same game back and say, well, yeah, if only we could fight the province to restore these speed cameras. And it's like, okay, first of all, last I checked, Olivia Chow has strong mirror powers and could just order certain things to be done. Now, I know in 2024, the City of Toronto had a study into Parkside Drive and into figuring out how to calm the traffic there. And it seems like the only thing that was really done was to add bike lanes. And the justification in the city's report was saying bike lanes make things safer because it gives dedicated circulation space for bikes. And it's like, that is true. When you narrow the street, it makes it harder for people to weave in and out of, passing cars or whatever. And it certainly makes it safer for cyclists, which is important. But it doesn't stop anything about like the north-south straightness of the street. So then what else were recommended to be added? Speed bumps, which for some reason in Ontario I'm seeing are all called speed humps now. Have you seen this? They're like no longer bumps.
Oh, I hate
humps.
That. They're called humps in LA, and I always found it really stupid.
What the hell is with that? Like, this is a bump, it's not a hump, and why would we change it? There's no reason to change that word, but okay, fine. Maybe it's some cultural thing I'm not sure of. So they've added some speed bumps. But again, it's like, it's a straight road. It's a straight road. Like, you can dead end it. You can divert traffic off of it. You could close it completely. Close it for construction and see how the traffic pattern changes. Have a rapid bus using that street only to go up and down it to make it a public transit only street. Pedestrianize it. Extend the park right past Parkside Drive and force drivers to detour around it. You know, like, it is so idiotic that the blame is put on the doorstep of Doug Ford, because Doug Ford doesn't care. He sees the speed cameras as a cultural war, and he is on the side of cars. That's all this is. And so if a progressive person looks at this and says, well, we just have to add the cameras back, you're engaging in the war on the terms that Doug Ford has created. It is not going to work. It's not going to work. You can't do it like that. So then it's like, you're in power, last I checked. And especially Progress Toronto. I mean, people that don't know them, they're kind of like the way the DSA has been able to get people elected in New York City, with the exception of the politics not being impeccable-ish. You know, like, they're liberal, like maybe a little bit to the left. Some people are more left than others, but by and large, they're liberals. It's like, you're in power, and still you're going to rely on this surveillance technology that you know is going to bring you to a showdown with the province. Why would you play that game?
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense to me. And it's just like one of those things where you have to always, whenever you're engaging in any sort of politics, you always have to zoom out and think about what you're doing, but also like on a principled level. And on a principled level, it's like what is the principle behind speed cameras? Like, because we're so indoctrinated into punishment as a form of, like, I don't know, dealing with an issue. Like, the thing that people would automatically say is, okay, we're trying to stop speeding, but you're not with that. You are trying to catch speeders. There's a difference, right? Trying to catch speeders so that you can do what? So you can punish them, or, you know, like, make some revenue off of whatever, off of tickets. That is a different thing. Trying to punish speeders is a different thing than trying to stop speeding. And if you're trying to stop speeding, there's like 1,000 more useful things that you can do. And as a progressive, as somebody who is concerned about things like the way we are losing our privacy in the world, and the ways that surveillance operates, and the ways that we are losing the ability to keep certain things from the policing apparatus, from private tech companies, it's like that needs to factor into the answer as well. It should not always be just like, okay, Doug Ford hates this, so we like it. It shouldn't work that way. We have to be smarter than that, because we want to be setting the gameplay of how we talk about these things as well. It's not actually complicated even. It's like, if our principle is that we need to have urban design that is safe and that works for people to get around cities, and that transportation, the way that we design our transportation infrastructure supports walking, biking, and other forms of transportation, public transportation, whatever, in addition to cars, if people continue to use them. Our streets are currently not designed for that. So we can design streets in a way that create the safety that we are looking for when politicians and corporations are selling you speed cameras as a way to catch people and trying to trick you into thinking that you're doing something about speed safety and traffic safety on the road.
Yeah, and there's so much attention, I think, all over Canada in various communities about creating more car-free spaces. And this is for me, I think this is a really, really exciting conversation. And this is where you really do see some very enlightened thinking, very creative thinking about how do we reclaim our downtown spaces. There was the years of the late 1940s through the 1960s where highways became king. And the idea was we wanted to give people the fastest access possible from one end of their city to another or whatever. And in that, a lot of cities, I mean, certainly we saw this in the United States where highways were just put right across downtowns. In other places like the city of Toronto, where there was an attempt to try and build a highway right up Spadina Avenue, of course, that never happened because of activists, notably Jane Jacobs, who fought very, very hard to keep a highway out of downtown Toronto. I think of Quebec City, where you look at Quebec City and the thing that people know the most about that city isn't our beautiful highways and our beautiful rapidity from point A to point B. It's how pedestrianized the downtown or the old city is in some place. I mean, it really isn't at all. Actually, we've got a lot to do. But to imagine someone trying to build a highway across downtown Quebec City is insanity. And then you realize that's exactly what they tried to do in the 1950s when they pulled out all the streetcar tracks. When on a hot day, when the asphalt starts to boil away in Montreal, the old streetcar tracks kind of come to the surface and you can be reminded of the mobility of the past in these places. And, there are some amazing projects like the streetcar in Edmonton, like the Calgary Sea Train, like the fact that you could get to the airport in Vancouver really, really well and easily, which is not the case in pretty much any other part of Canada. Although, shout out to our friend Mathieu Murphy-Perron, who biked from his home in Montreal all the way to Regina in June and was able to get his plane on board. And of course, Regina's airport is bikeable to the downtown, which is not the case if you're flying into Halifax or Edmonton. But anyway, that's pretty cool. But this fight to liberate our downtowns from cars is a really interesting one. And, if you look at Paris, which has just done so much to reduce pollution within their downtown, to reduce car traffic, to reduce the danger that comes with all of this, increase people's love of walking and the walkability of the plazas and whatever. There's a lot of lessons that need to be learned. And I think that progressives in Canada are just so unable to get out of the culture war traps that get set for us. And so we kind of, repeat logic that isn't very logical. It isn't actually very smart. So it's like, what do we need? Well, people need to have quality public transit. Obviously, public transit has to be reliable. It has to be massively expanded. People need other options for, really short trips. So bike share, electric bike share. I think that the electric scooters are a disaster. I think that every city that has electric scooters needs to get rid of them immediately and replace them with actually electric bikes. You need to have walkable spaces, and you need to also have access points to businesses so that deliveries can get downtown. So that means smaller trucks, more creative deliveries in terms of, time of day or whatever. But look at what New York City did. Like, New York City's traffic was a disaster. They came up with a pricing system, and you and I have been critical of pricing systems in the past, but it was pretty incredible to see how New York has managed to reduce traffic congestion on the island of Manhattan through a pricing system that has seemingly worked. So we have to sidestep the traps that are set for us from the far right, because ultimately they want us in their cars. They want us buying cars. They want us listening to trash radio. They want us being disconnected from each other. And they want us to believe that the best access to a business, regardless of where it is our giant idiotic machine. In Quebec City, a city that is obsessed with cars, really, really, really obsessed with cars, there has been an increase in business along one of the major roads where they took out a row of parking and put in bike lanes. And it's not surprising, because you're more free on a bike to get on and off and go, oh, you know what? I am going to stop in at this bakery and pick up my favorite muffins.
Yeah, like I just, again, living in LA, it's like one of the hardest things about living in LA. I was just the film screening I talked about last week. There was a surprising number of Canadians there, and many of us from different cities across Canada, from Newfoundland to Winnipeg to there was just a bunch of people, and we all spoke about how the weirdest thing about living in LA was how few opportunities there are to just meet random people. And that's because you're always in a car by yourself. And that fight to keep highways out of the downtown, LA lost that, okay? LA used to be a city of streetcars. LA has this incredible transit history that it used to be this city of streetcars that were all replaced by this massive highway infrastructure. And now it takes forever to get anywhere. And when I say forever, I mean where I lived when I was going to school out here, it would take me 18 minutes after midnight to get from school to home. And in the morning, it could take up to 2 hours in traffic. Okay. That
Wow.
is outrageous. The transit infrastructure, I mean, it's getting better as the city's really trying to invest in it. But at the time was absolute trash. And, nobody bikes out here. It's so, even though there is some biking infrastructure in certain places in the city, depending on where you are, it's just so dangerous because there isn't enough biking infrastructure that it connects from one point of the city to another. So it can be quite harrowing to take a bike somewhere. And then if you do, you're one of 4 cyclists on the road, maybe, that you'll see in a trip that may take you half an hour. And also, cars don't care. There's a crosswalk. I walk a lot in LA. I'm the sole person walking often. And there's a crosswalk right across from my place that, I will turn the lights on for the crosswalk and go to cross, and people will still zoom right through it because that's the culture of the city. It doesn't matter that you're in the middle of there's no real, I mean, I don't know how to describe this, but there's many downtowns in LA, I guess. So if you're in say the downtowny part of West Hollywood, you're still walking across, if you're crossing the street, you're still walking across potentially 4 to 6 lanes of traffic. That's outrageous. That's outrageous.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that. It should be 1, if that, so again, we have options. We have options and to make sure that our cities don't become hellscapes like Los Angeles and become places where, gosh, if you're taking the transit in the morning, you can meet people, you can speak to people, you can interact with people. Or not, just put your headphones in if you don't want to, But this solo person in a car that's taking up tons and tons of space, that's paying tons and tons of money to the car infrastructure, that is, supporting this policing infrastructure. It's not good. It's not progressive, and it's not principled. And we need to think about all of the ways who we are supporting when we're arguing for that, when we're falling for that kind of argument, and who has the upper hand in that sort of argument. It's always going to be the people who are arguing for the speed cameras.
Did you, when you were a kid, did you watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, sure. Of course I did.
Do you remember what the big conflict was in that movie? I had to rewatch it as an adult, so I didn't remember it, but I'd love to hear if you remember what the conflict was.
I don't.
They were trying to bulldoze Toontown to put a highway right through the middle of Hollywood.
Wow.
And the system of streetcars had been purchased by the evil guy trying to build a highway.
Well, look at that.
Look at that.
The tunes get it.